Hi there, welcome to Mind Your Own Business TV. I'm Debbie Davis. We have a great show for you today. I am talking with attorney Bernard Broder. He has an office in Sanford and he is running for York County District Attorney. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
How are you today?
Thanks for having me. I'm well.
Good.
You?
I am very good.
Great.
Now listen, let's go over your background. You're running for York County District Attorney, so we want to find out a little bit more about you.
Background investigation, as we say in the business?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Now, you have had a ton of schooling.
I have. Some people say I have more degrees than a thermometer.
You do. You totally do. Bachelor of Science in Child Development, Social Services, and with distinction in University of Maine. Master of Divinity with honors. Juris Doctor, University of Maine School of Law. Associates of Science in Human Services, Mental Health Technology. Did I miss any?
I think that's it.
Unless
you want to confer an honorary doctorate or something, but
an honorary doctorate in public television. Yes, we'll award that to you, no problem.
Okay.
Now, you've got some volunteer experience as well.
I love volunteering.
Tell me what you've done.
Well, in the past, I've done a lot of hospice volunteering and helped Hospice of Maine train new volunteers, and they honored me a number of years ago with Volunteer of the Year, which was a huge honor. I volunteer with canine rescue and fostering, and have had up to 5 what we call failed fosters, the dogs that you take in and keep. I have volunteered in the Attorney General's office, training law enforcement officers and teachers and parents on keeping schools safe for the kids. And more recently, I have volunteered at the courthouse in what's called the Courthouse Advocacy Program, where I go in for an afternoon and help people with family matters that can't afford an attorney. So I love to volunteer. You always get back more than you give.
I agree. And you know, volunteering, I believe, is a fabulous way if you are in between jobs to do some volunteering because of the connections that you can make.
Yes.
And you never know which direction it's going to lead you. It'll lead you down a path that you never thought you would have been down before. And so not only the personal gratitude that you get, you know, the feeling you're making a difference in somebody's life, but also the opportunity probably to do something totally new as a career.
Yes, I agree.
Fantastic.
And it's always good to get outside oneself and do something for someone else.
That's very true. Now, you also have your own law practice located in Sanford.
I do.
How long have you been doing that?
I have done private practice since 2005, and I handle a wide variety of cases, really, but predominantly what I have done is called court-appointed work, where I represent indigent clients, people who are facing the risk of jail but can't afford an attorney. So the pay is not great, but again, the rewards are great, and you have a chance to really make a difference for people.
And somebody has to do it, right? Somebody. Thank you for doing it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Seriously.
It's, yeah.
You have also served as an assistant attorney general.
I have. When I first graduated law school in 1997, I've been an attorney 21 years now, I served in Aroostook County as an assistant attorney general prosecuting child abuse and neglect cases and child support enforcement matters. And I was also cross-designated as an assistant district attorney up there handling criminal matters. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I came to York County as a prosecutor in 1999. So I've done both sides of criminal cases now, both prosecuting and defense work. And you know, it's interesting because a lot of people, when they're looking for a defense attorney, want to find someone who has been a prosecutor and understands that side of the process. Conversely, I think that having a district attorney who has been a defense attorney will benefit that office, having someone who understands how a defense attorney looks at a case, what the process is of working with clients and managing that situation and so forth. I think it really enhances the potential for a district attorney.
Well, anytime you have two sides of any coin, you're going to be have the most benefits when the person representing you has both knowledge pieces. It's going to
Yes.
benefit you.
Yeah. Well,
There's no
one thing I
question.
noticed as doing a defense attorney right away, because when you're a prosecutor, you have a pile of cases that you have to get through on any given docket call.
Right.
And so you really have to manage your time well and assimilate fact patterns quickly. Defense attorney has more time, of course, with their client and so forth. Not to say they're not under time constraints, because it certainly is a challenge. But you learn a lot more about people and what's the story behind the conduct that brings them to court. And so if you're able to convey that quickly to a prosecutor whose job it is to do justice, it's not a numbers game where people get a bonus if they
Right.
prosecute more people and so forth. I think true justice is better served.
Okay, so from a layman's point of view, it sounds like we're spending a lot of time on the people. And in my mind, I want my prosecutor to prosecute. Am I wrong?
No, not at all. But at every step in the process and every intersection with the criminal justice system, you are dealing with people. Police officers are people. The defendants are people. The victims of crime, where our primary focus is, are people. So I think an awareness of people and human relations skills is critically important for someone doing that job.
Well said.
Now, if what you're getting at is, you're a prosecutor, not a social worker, I
yes.
totally agree with you. Totally. But I shouldn't say but, I should say and. In some situations, for example, our current opioid epidemic, having a social service background, I think, will be very helpful. And we do have to look at the root causes of criminal conduct. My philosophy on the opioid epidemic is that it comes down to supply and demand in terms of what are we going to do about this. On the supply side, we have people that are trafficking in drugs, both within the state and bringing
out
them
of the
in.
state.
Yes. And we have a real presence on the main turnpike. But I think we need to step up law enforcement in rural areas like Route 202 coming in through Lebanon and so forth.
Oh, sure.
So that's the supply side. And that, in my view, is where we need to really crack down on prosecution. And that people do need to be incarcerated if they're trafficking in drugs and spreading this epidemic. Then you have the demand side, people using them. And that's where I think the social science background comes into that. Why are they using them? What has generated this addictive behavior? And the emphasis should be, in most, not all cases, but in most cases, on treatment, which does not mean that we just send someone off somewhere and let a case go, but we hold them accountable through your choices are treatment or what the criminal justice process would offer, which is incarceration. So you use the incarceration as a carrot to motivate the person. So again, I'm just differentiating the supply and the demand and what I think the approach should be on those two ends.
That's important. It's a big issue. I mean, it is huge. I mean, I know in my family we have this problem or this issue to deal with. And I think in many families you either have it in your family or you know someone that's close to you that has it in their family.
Absolutely.
And it's just out of control.
It is. And we're losing a whole generation
We are.
of young people. If one reads the obituaries, it's daily.
Yeah.
It's daily.
You're absolutely right on that one. So, you are running for York County District Attorney.
Yes, I am.
Why? Why are you running?
Well, as you know, I ran for judge of probate in 2016, and I did not win, but I garnered, I believe, just over 26,000 out of 117 or 118,000 votes cast. So after that, people started approaching me and saying, you know, as an independent and your first time out, you really commanded some respect there. You really pulled it off. And would you consider running for district attorney? Which that race was 2 years out. And but I didn't dismiss it, but I just said it's not time to decide that. Since then, I've been inspired by a few things. I was at a retirement party for a long-term prosecutor, and the justice who spoke talked about the importance of a prosecutor, how much power that person, not the district attorney necessarily, any prosecutor, has so much power over people's lives and what can happen to them, and ensuring proper law enforcement in the community and ensuring safety and so forth. It's a
Sure.
very important position. And I felt very inspired by that after hearing that. And that's really when I made the firm decision. But I also look back, and as you mentioned, I've worked in the DA's office in York County. And in 2010, there was the potential for a contested race in York County, in that the Democrats had a choice, were going to have a choice at their primary between one candidate and the current DA. And this is what the other candidate said. This is in 2010. I see this as a real opportunity to change some things. If you talk to law enforcement agencies, social service agencies, a lot of people in the defense bar, there's a lack of confidence in the office. And it shouldn't be that way. There's a pool of dedicated staff in the office, and there's no reason we can't be the best in the state. I don't feel much has changed since 2010. This is what my experience with law enforcement and social service agencies and the defense bar and so forth still say. I want to take the office from needs improvement to most improved, and make it an office that people can be really proud of. And I also agree with his assessment. There are some very fine people in the office, and I think that having some fresh blood, some new approaches to things, some energy, someone that wants to be a visible, hands-on, hardworking DA will inspire people in that office to work even harder, because there's a lot of pride in that. I want to make this office not the weakest link in the state, and bring it to a place where we really should be. So, you know, that's, like I said, that's 2010. Here it is 2018, and I don't see where there's been much movement. I think I have the right skill set to do this job. I think I bring experience to do it. It's not like I'm fresh out of school or I'm not an experienced prosecutor,
Right.
that sort of thing. And some of the people who intersect with that office, with the current DA, have offered me endorsements.
Okay.
And, you know, these are not, as an independent, it's a pretty coveted thing to get
Yes.
endorsements from party representatives. So from Representative Karen Garish, for example, in Lebanon, who's a Republican, she shares that as the ranking minority member of the state's Criminal Justice Committee, she's endorsing me, and that through her work with law enforcement officers, she's routinely hearing complaints about this office, and she wants accountability within the office. So she has urged people to vote for me. She knows me,
Okay.
feels that I will suit up, show up, and do what I can.
Right.
On the other side of the aisle is Anne Marie Mastracchio, who's a Democrat from Sanford. And she shares that as a legislator, she's worked with the current DA, and she's keenly aware of the need for new and engaged leadership in the office. She believes I'm a hard worker, an experienced prosecutor, and that I'll be accessible and hands-on. And lastly, from Dean Knight, who is an independent but a former Republican, Dean has over 40 years' experience in law enforcement. He's a retired state trooper. He's been a judicial marshal. And his statement is that with all that experience, he knows that he speaks for many, if not most, in law enforcement when saying that the York County DA's office needs new leadership. And then he goes on as to his personal observations of me and his belief that I'm right for the job. Okay. So, you know, anyone can come in and tell you how great they are or that they're the best fit. I think it's good to hear it from other people.
It is.
What
It
they
definitely
see as
is.
the need and what their observations are. Yeah.
Well, what are your main goals if you win?
Well, the first thing that I want to do is really, you know, I was thinking about this last night in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of need.
Yes.
And we have to deal with the basic first. So the basic is I want to get in and really demonstrate hands-on, accessible, working right beside you leadership and accountability. So that's the baseline. And then from there, the main focuses that I see right now as needing the most attention are the opioid epidemic, which we've already addressed somewhat. Domestic violence is unfortunately an ongoing, pervasive problem, complicated problem. I definitely want to deal more with animal cruelty and neglect cases, which can often be very closely linked to domestic violence, actually.
Really?
And yes.
I know we're hearing a lot of animal issues around the state of late, and it's rather disturbing.
Yeah, yes. Well, and here, this one is not domestic violence related, but in Buxton, there was a puppy mill seizure in 2007, 2008 that didn't get prosecuted by the DA's office until, I believe, 2011.
That's 4 or 5 years.
Yes. I don't know why that should have taken that long to get there. The state expended over $500,000 in resources. Actually, that includes, I believe, what shelters also expended. But over $500,000 was expended in that case.
Wow.
There were 25 cases of animal cruelty brought, and the defendants pled guilty to 5 counts, but by virtue of doing 30 hours community service work and staying out of trouble for 17 months, those were dismissed.
Well, that's the type of thing that really irks the average person.
Especially if they love animals.
That's just not punishment, in my opinion.
Correct. And it fails to protect other animals.
Sure.
Because if you have a conviction, multiple convictions for animal cruelty, that's going to be a big red flag. If you have no criminal history and you go to adopt an animal or set up another breeding facility, you're going to be just fine. So in that instance, there was a real lack of communication between the DA's office and the Buxton Police Department. And that's the type of thing that I hear about when I go out and meet with chiefs. The communication is lacking. That's something I want to improve on.
It is critical in this position.
Yeah. And of course, the elderly. What I'm really highlighting are vulnerable populations here with each instance, whether it's substance abuse, domestic violence, animals that have no voice, the elderly that are often lacking in a voice and may be very well being exploited by family members or other people close to them. But yes, the link between domestic violence and animal abuse, a lot of people will not leave their abuser because they're afraid of what will happen to their pet if they do. Or you know, what if I just flee, or I go ask a family member if I can stay with them, or a friend? You know, I have 2 or 3 dogs.
Yeah,
Are they gonna?
yeah.
So
Not
it's a
easy.
big thing. It's a big thing, and it's also often a precursor to, you know, if someone's abusing the animal, the people are next. So there is a very close link.
Good Lord. Well, I'm glad that that's going to be one of your focuses because that needs to be addressed. Now, what do you need to help you get elected? Everybody needs something when you're a candidate, right?
Well, I find the most helpful thing with an election are votes.
Yes.
Now, how do we get votes? Votes come from name recognition and people knowing what your platform is, what you stand for, who you are. That's why endorsements are important because, again, it's one thing for me to tell you who I am. It's another for other people whom you know and trust to do that. What do I need in terms of tangible help? If people want to help me, they could help me distribute literature going door to door. That's an easy thing to do. I could use help with computer work if anyone has technical expertise. The biggest thing, though, is for them, if they have questions, to call me so they can get to know me. And then with that knowledge, to spread the word. Tell their family members, tell their friends. Because, you know, actually, 25 to 30% of people who vote do not vote for district attorney. They leave it blank.
And you know why? Because they don't know anything about the district attorney.
Right.
Or the people running is
Or
what I should say.
Yes, they don't know about the candidate, they don't know about the functions of the job.
And how would one find out about that stuff?
Well, I think some of the best ways would be to identify whose work or personal experience intersects with that office. So I recommend that people, if you know someone that works in law enforcement, you can talk to them. Now, they can't talk to you about politics when they're on duty or in uniform, of course, about a
Right.
specific candidate.
Right.
Nor should they. So if you know them, you can talk to them when they're off duty or talk to one of their family members about what they think. Defense attorneys intersect with.
Both the defense attorneys and or any attorney and the law enforcement community is a fantastic way.
Yes.
Because they intersect with this office every day.
Constantly. If you know someone in York County who's been the victim of a crime, you can talk to them about their experience. And that's the best way, I think, to find out and to differentiate what an individual tells you about themselves or how they represent themselves in a show like this, myself included, versus what the people who know them know.
Right.
That's how you find out.
So if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
They can phone me. My number is 207-899-7868. They can email me at attorneybroder@yahoo.com.
We rarely know our own email address
See
off
why
the
I
top
was
of our head.
see why I was asking for the computer help?
Yes.
I am on Facebook, Broder for District Attorney.
Okay. That's fantastic.
And I love to go out and meet with people individually or groups.
Have you been out door to door?
But I have. And the common theme, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, is they want change and they don't want partisanship.
Right.
So a lot of people are telling me they're voting independent just based on that.
Yep. You're
So-
absolutely right.
Yeah.
I love it. Attorney Bernard Broder, he's running for York County District Attorney. If you want to give him some help, you head over to his Facebook page. You can give him a call. Give us your number one more time.
207-899-7868.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much.
Attorney Broder, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you. My pleasure.
And we will see you next time on Mind Your Own Business TV.